Thanks for tuning in to watch The Ordinary Filmmaker. It's Tuesday, October the 5th, 2021. It's dark and it's dreary outside, and speaking of dark and dreary, Nikon's gone and released a teaser video for the Nikon Z9. The video starts off with everything upside down. It's dark and it's dreary. The model, she's dressed in black, she's walking slowly like she's off to her own funeral, and even the photographer doesn't look happy. Look at her, she looks miserable, she looks sad. Is this a new product launch announcement teaser video? Certainly doesn't seem like there's any sort of emotion or any positive emotion. And look, she's laying down. She's just completely given up. I don't know. This is kind of a strange video for Nikon's teaser video. This time of year, especially in the Northern Hemisphere, it's quite often dark. I wake up in the morning and it's dark, it's dreary, it's rainy. We get a lot of rain this time of year, and then the rain finally gives way into snow. So it's very dark and dreary, and to have a teaser video come out this time of year being as dark and dreary, and it really was. I mean, she did not look happy at all, and I get that. There's a certain emotion that you're trying to tell as a photographer, and there's something about having models just look unhappy, and many find that attractive and appealing. I don't. I prefer people who are smiling and happy. I mean, after all, this is Nikon's mirrorless version of the D6. In fact, it's an upgrade over that D6. The Nikon Z9 is packing some pretty serious capabilities. So why the dreary video? Well, this is part of a 4-part series that Nikon's going to be putting out. They've set up a web portal, and this is the very first video with other 3 slots saying that something is coming soon. And this is just Nikon's way of announcing, look, the Z9, we've got it ready for you. We're going to be announcing it very shortly, but we want to give you a sort of a tease. We want to build up that emotion. I just wish they had started with something a little bit more positive instead of that negative video, because I got to tell you, it's been raining for about 2 days straight now, and I don't mind the rain, I don't mind the dark, but after a while, it gets to you. And this video, it certainly didn't send me a positive emotion. As you can tell by my rant at the beginning, it's just that's my interpretation. And I love cameras, and I'm looking forward to seeing the Z9. But what are the specifications? Now, Nikon has provided a development announcement, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the specs from the development announcement and merge that with the latest rumors and give you a build of what this Z9 is supposed to be. And from what I can see already, this is looking to be a stunning camera. It's going to have no problem competing against the Sony Alpha 1 and the Canon R3. In fact, it beats the R3 in many areas. So, what is the Nikon Z9 looking like? Well, it's going to have a 45 megapixel full frame stacked sensor. And that 45 megapixel sensor is the same size as the R5, the R5, but it's a little bit smaller than the Sony Alpha 1. And that 45 megapixel camera or sensor is what is going to allow it to provide 8K video, full sensor readout, DCI. And it's going to be able to provide 8K video at the basic frame rates, which are 24, 25, and 30 frames per second. So that's a big accomplishment. It's also going to have a new processor, also designed to help provide that huge bandwidth that we're going to need to deliver 8K in all-I. We don't know if it's going to do RAW yet, but it is going to do all-I. It also does 4K video, 24, 25, and 30, the same basic frame rates. It also does slow motion at 50 and 60 frames per second, and of course, 100 and 120 frames per second. But this is not designed primarily as a video camera. It has very solid video capabilities, but on the still side, well, it can do 30 frames per second electronic. It does it blackout free, and it can shoot at 120 hertz. The ISO ranges from 60 to 25,600. And I believe that's underreported. I don't believe that's exactly correct. Depending on what mode you're in, you might be limited to 25,600, but this camera will do at least 51,000 ISO. It has dual CF Express card slots, or XQD. Is it XQD? I always sometimes get those mixed up. I don't use them very much. I didn't make a mention here, but you know the ones I'm talking about. It will also do 16-bit RAW. Now, there's no mention of overheating for the video side of things, and that kind of matters because you remember the R5, how it got really beaten up over that? Canon released the R3, and guess what? They made sure that wasn't an issue. Apparently, people can record, according to Gordon Lang, 6 hours before the overheat timer kicks in. I'm not sure why 6 hours. Maybe it's a union thing. Maybe the camera is part of a union, and the cameras aren't supposed to work more than 6 hours at a time. It's certainly possible. 6 hours record time at 60 frames per second, no overheating. And I expect the same from the Z9. I mean, after all, who wasn't aware of the flack that Canon caught over the R5 and the overheating? Just really bad thermals in that. Now, as far as autofocus goes, well, the autofocus has improved significantly, and it's very similar. As far as specs go, it's identical to the R3. So it does human-animal eye detection, and it does vehicle detection as well. And of course, when it comes to animals, it varies with accuracy. What I've noticed with the R5, although it's advertised from bird and pets, I was able to get success rate with some insects and other animals too. So it's a really nice feature. This autofocus, the way it's improving across the cameras, we've got Sony and Canon producing really good autofocus systems, and it looks like the Z9 is going to have a much improved autofocus system to compete, at least based on the specs, at the same level as those three cameras. And as you can tell from my video yesterday on the Panasonic GH6 and what I said about autofocus, in that I think it's essential, especially for a one-man crew. It's good to see that the Nikon Z9 is also going to be producing very, very good autofocus. And as far as low light, it's good down to about -7 EV. And it's going to have, I mentioned dual card slots, it's going to have conflicting rumors whether it's going to have a new battery or the same old battery as the D6. And price range, it's going to be between $6,000 and $7,000 US. And I'm, based on the price of the Alpha 1, I'm expecting no more than $6,500. And if Nikon wants to sort of, you know, start a bit of a price war, they're going to put it down at $59.99, and that's going to price it lower than the Sony Alpha 1, but it would also price it the same as the R3. So Nikon could have fun with pricing here. If they want to just grab as much money as they can put it at $7,000, but that puts it above the Alpha 1, and I don't see that. So most likely $64.99, but they could play around a little bit. Curious to see what they do with pricing. Now, as far as specs, if I left anything out, oh yes, a couple of things. So it's going to have that multi-leaf blade shutter. So when you turn the camera off, or if you remove a lens, it's going to protect from dust getting in there. And I hope that's something that Sony does as well, because, you know, you shouldn't have to clean your sensor every time you go out. So that's a really big thing. Anything else? Improved noise levels. And of course, it's going to have significantly better dynamic range. And I love dynamic range, especially in video. The more dynamic range I can get, the better. The closer I can get to 20 stops of dynamic range, the closer I can replicate what my own eyes can see. Although as time goes by, my dynamic range seems to be dropping up on my eyes. So at some point, by the time we get to 20 stops of dynamic range, my eyes will probably be down around 12 stops of dynamic range. So we'll just have to see how that goes. So some really good specs. It's looking to be an incredible camera. I'm just looking to see if I've left anything out. Oh yeah, just one minor thing. You can adjust the sound level of the shutter. I personally like to hear the shutter because the amount of times where I pressed it and not realized I pressed it, and when I'm in high speed mode at 20 frames per second, I want to have a little bit of a sound, so I know that it's just going ahead and filling up my CF Express card. And with 2 terabytes, boy, that's a lot of photos. That's a lot of stills. So the Nikon Z9 is looking to be an amazing camera. Oh, and one other thing I forgot to mention, please reach over and click subscribe, click like, because this really helps my channel grow. I know you're comfortable, and I know I keep saying this in every video, but please, believe me, it really makes a difference. I don't know how it works with YouTube, but their algorithm, based on the feedback you provide through subscribes and likes and other engagements, it really does make a difference. It helps this channel grow, because when they see the engagement, they see the subscribes, they're more willing to say, okay, Simon got a lot of subscribes today, let's go ahead and put this video out, recommend it to other people. So that really makes a big difference. And now I just want to take a brief behind the scenes and talk to you a little bit about a couple of things. Now, in yesterday's video about the Panasonic GH6 and about the acquisition, I took a little bit of flack, and you know what? I took a whole lot less flack than I expected. I really do hope that the GH6 does have a new phase detect autofocus system, but we'll remember back in March, and John Drummond pointed this out to me, I'd long since forgotten because old man memory. In March, in an interview, I think it was with DP Review, Yamane had said that we're going to continue to improve the depth from defocus contrast detect autofocus system. Now, we can take that one of two ways. They're going to continue to bring that into new cameras, or they're just going to continue to improve it in old cameras. And why would you do that? Well, I could see them really working on improving it in the new cameras, which would be an indication that the GH6 is going to have contrast detect autofocus, although it's going to be improved. Yay! Yamani, if you're watching, please just no contrast detect. You're losing customers. Look at the Nikon Z9 here. It too is moving to vehicle detect. It's got human, animal eye detection, object detection, better everything. Oh, and I forgot to mention the LCD. So you make amazing cameras. Panasonic makes some of the best cameras, video specific or centric cameras that still take really good photos. Yet, time and time again, us ordinary filmmakers, single person crews, you know, we can't always pull manual focus easily. When I want to do a scene out in a park or something and I put the camera in front of me, I want to sit down. Do you know how hard it is for me to try and pull focus manually, moving back and forth, how time consuming that is? I don't. I always set my camera to autofocus because it's a whole lot more accurate. It works most of the time. And I just don't want to go through the hassle of trying to do manual focus. It doesn't work. Now, I had a few problems when it snows or when flies go in front of the lens, but there's a few settings I can do in the R5 that makes it really slow to move, because when snow falls or other things get in the way, it's short term, so I can compensate for that. So it's really frustrating. Hopefully the GH6 is not going to have that. So Panasonic's going to be announcing the GH6 very soon, most likely October the 27th. And also, we're getting a mention of another box 6K camera that Panasonic might be announcing also on October the 27th. So a lot of exciting stuff coming up. But thank you so much for tuning in to watch The Ordinary Filmmaker. I do appreciate your comments. I do listen. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon.